Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, September 22nd edition of the MMAOB Daily Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin, and I'm joined by my co-host, Cole Shelton, to break down this weekend's UFC 253 card, as well as recap UFC on ESPN Plus 36, also known as UFC Vegas 11. We got some news to talk about, some fighters getting signed, some getting cut, a couple fight announcements. We're going to go for 1 hour, and we'll take your questions along the way. So first off, what's going on, Cole? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, man. Doing well. Been busy, obviously, with the grind of this and just watching a lot of other sports. I mean, a lot of these other sports are kind of in the final phase of their seasons, right? It's kind of like, from March to July, I guess, was like a dead period, right? But now it's just like everything's happening at once. So it's good for sports fans like us. It's been pretty busy, but it's definitely good. But like I said, man, this card coming up this weekend, this is a good card. I mean, it's not the best pay-per-view I've ever seen. Definitely not the best of the year, I don't think either, but it's a solid card. 2 title fights. And then we obviously have the one from this past weekend to recap where we actually both did pretty good in our picks.
Yeah.
I got 9 right, you got 10 right. So I think we did pretty good on that. Called a couple of dogs. Let's get right into it, Cole. Let's just break down or recap this card, I should say. Start with the main event. Colby Covington defeats Tyron Woodley, 5th round TKO due to a rib injury. Saw the x-rays of Woodley's rib injury. Not the most exciting fight, obviously, Cole. Covington did what he had to do. It was good he got the stoppage, although obviously it was an injury. Still, it was a stoppage win. It's better than just the decision. For Covington, this obviously is a fight he needed to win to keep in that top 5, top 3, arguably, of that division. So for him, I'm thinking maybe Leon Edwards could be next or Masvidal. It just depends what they want to do with Masvidal. I'd rather see the Masvidal fight, Cole. They seem intent on running the Nate Diaz fight back. I'd almost feel like I'd rather see them do Nate Diaz Conor 3. It makes a little bit more sense in my opinion. I just don't see the point of doing that rematch. We saw that fight last year. It wasn't even competitive. To me, I'd rather see Masvidal Covington get that fight or Edwards Covington. And then also, I guess you have Stephen Thompson in that mix. Kind of not. He's a little bit outside the picture there, but that's pretty much the top 5. Then you got obviously Burns and Usman. So you kind of mix and match with those guys, Cole. But what are you thinking for Colby next? What would you do if you had to pick his next fight?
I think it's really 2 options. I think it's either he waits to fight the winner of Usman Burns or he fights Masvidal. I have no interest in seeing the Diaz rematch. Even a lot of my friends that were over that night to watch that fight have even texted me when they found out Diaz. They're like, "Why is this happening? The first fight wasn't close." So I don't even think it's going to be that big of a fight because a lot of my friends are casual friends. I can only tell if a fight's going to be big just by them texting me "Oh, can we watch at your house?" And they're already doing that for this Saturday. They did it 2 weeks ago when it Costa Adesanya. They're really excited for this fight, but Diaz Masvidal too. None of them were excited for it. They're it's just gonna be the same result. Why would we watch that again? So I think you honestly pull the plug on that. Do Masvidal Covington. Masvidal Covington to me is honestly a bigger fight. I think you could headline a pay-per-view with that. Not have a non-title fight just because Masvidal's a big star. Covington knows how to sell a fight. That would be obviously a ton of trash talk, a ton of good media out of them. If you had Diaz to Masvidal 2 headline a pay-per-view, I don't see why you couldn't have Masvidal Covington headline 1.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. As far as Woodley goes, now Dana White said he wants Woodley to retire. He's lost 3 straight fights. He's dropped 15 straight rounds, Cole. It's not just he's losing his fights. He's getting shut out in the scorecards. And in this fight, he got finished and broke his rib. He's also 38 years old. Clearly not the same guy he once was. It's just kind of crazy how much he's declined in 2 years. It was just 2 years ago, Cole, where he tapped out Darren Till in I think it was the first round or second round.
And I picked Till in that one. I looked like an idiot.
Well, I'll be honest. I pick against Woodley almost every fight. I have been for forever, and he's obviously he's beat me a few times when he knocked out Lawler and that fight as well. But for the most part, I pick against him. The Wonder Boy fights, I'm always against this guy. I don't know. I like Woodley. I think he's an okay fighter, but there's just so many holes in his game, man. The biggest problem with Woodley is the lack of output, Cole. It's just so frustrating to watch this guy. If you're his fan, if you're a big fan of Woodley, you must be ripping your hair out watching this guy fight because he doesn't throw enough strikes. This fight, he was a little bit more aggressive, I think, than maybe the last 2 fights, but still, Cole, he got dominated in the wrestling, got dominated in the striking. I don't think he should retire because I'll tell you why. He lost to 3 of the top 5 guys in the world. So to me, yes, there's 3 losses there, but it doesn't mean he's done. Look at Damian Maia. Damian Maia also lost to 3 of the top 5 guys in the world, Cole, 2 years ago. And then he won a couple fights. He beat Askren, he beat Lyman Good. So just give Woodley a guy in the bottom half of the top 15 next and see how he does against him. If he gets destroyed, then he's done. But if he wins, then, he's not done. Now, the one interesting fight for Woodley, Khamzat Chimaev. I'd almost rather see him fight Woodley than Maia. I don't want to see the Maia fight. The Maia fight is completely pointless. Maia is 42 years old, Cole. I know you've kind of talked to his camp. I don't know how much interest there is right now. Like, if he's going to retire after one more fight, I'd rather see Maia fight Diego Sanchez, Donald Cerrone, a legend, right? A legends fight. I don't want to see him fight a guy like Khamzat who's going to probably knock him out in the first round. Woodley is kind of more interesting fight. Woodley is pretty durable. I know, obviously, he got finished in this fight, Cole, but he's pretty durable. The problem, obviously, is his injury. He's going to be out for a while. I don't know what they're going to do with Khamzat, though. It seems like they want to turn him around quickly. We'll talk about him in a second here. I don't want to go into him before the co-main event. Let's do the co-main event first, Cole. Donald Cerrone and Niko Price fight to a draw. I had a draw. I think the draw is 100% the right scorecard. 9-9 first round. It was 10-9 Price, but the eye poke, which I think was a great call by the ref, by the way. He had, I think, 2 straight eye pokes that really hurt Cerrone and damaged his vision, so they took a point, which I'm fine with. I think it was Jason Herzog. Second round, Niko Price. Third round, Cerrone. I think it was one of the easiest fights to score. I don't get it. I don't understand how one judge had it for Cerrone. And not only that, but there was actually, I'm looking online, and there were some people that I kind of respect their opinion. They were like, oh, Cerrone won the last 2 rounds. No way. Niko Price won the first 2 rounds. He got a point deducted. It was a draw. That's how I thought it was, Cole. What do you think?
I thought that was right in the fight ended. I'm like, man, I should have bet this fight into a draw. Like, anytime a draw is plus 7,000 plus. And some of my friends, when we're watching pay-per-views, they just pick a random fight, throw $10 on a draw. I'm like, you should have done it on this one. You could have made some good money. But man, I thought 28-28 was the easiest scorecard of the night. Just see you later. I think there was no debate. When I heard 29-27, I'm like, I didn't really see Cerrone. I thought if you give 29-27, it was probably Price. Yeah.
And the stats back it up too. They show that Price won the first 2 rounds. But either way, it was a draw. But the problem is Cerrone, man, took a lot of damage. Once again, Cole, that first round, I messaged you, Cole. I'm like, is this guy not going to move his head once? He didn't move his head at all. He's just sitting there getting teed off on my Price, who landed well over 100 strikes. He also took a lot of damage too. Niko Price, I like Niko Price, Cole. He fights really dumb though. He takes a lot of damage. Doesn't really have a fight IQ game plan when he goes in. He just kind of, swings for the fences. Cerrone's kind of getting like that too. Dana White says he wants Cerrone to retire. You think he's done, or you think he fights again, Cole? He is winless in his last 5. This wasn't a loss. It was almost a loss. What do you think, Cole? You think he's done, or you think he fights once again?
I think he's going to fight one more. I think they're going to run back this Price rematch. It seems like both guys want it. I think you just do that. Maybe you give Cowboy a Woodley and see what Woodley's like. Maybe I don't really know what you do with Cowboy. He's fought all the guys. I think both guys seem like they want the Price rematch. I think that's probably what they're going to do if they fight again. But I can't see Dana White telling Cowboy to retire because I think, especially on a draw, I think they're going to let him go. You see if win or loss, maybe let's say one more, just don't end on a draw.
I don't think he retires either, man. I think he's going to fight at least one more time. To be honest, I think Cerrone will probably fight a few more times. I don't think he's even close to being done. I know he looked terrible in this fight, and I would like to see him maybe hang up the glove soon, Cole. He's one of these guys that will, he'll have to, be dead to retire. He doesn't want to hang him up, so we'll see what happens. They could do the rematch. Woodley's another interesting call, Cole. I mean, both guys on the kids. Again, you look at Cerrone's losses; they were really the top guys. This fight obviously was a draw, but it could have been a loss. We'll see what they do with him, but I think he fights again for sure. I mean, again, you could do a fight a Damian Maia too. That'd be an interesting fight for both guys, honestly. That'd be a good fight. Both guys with good submission games, and Cerrone would have the striking. Let's get some comments here. Kenshiro says you took Holland, Dern, Khamzat, Colby, Parlay. He had Damon Jackson.
I saw quite a few people that I follow that they're handicappers have that exact same parlay. I think that was just a popular. Everyone was pretty confident in all them.
Mm-hmm. Kevin Scott, morning fellas. I think ESPN, UFC ESPN deal requires pay-per-view main events to be title fights. Introduction of BMF title.
You had Conor Cowboy, so you don't need title fights.
Well, I guess Conor's the exception, but yeah, I don't think so either. If it's a big fight, when Nick Diaz comes back, if he comes back, he'll probably headline a card, and I don't think it'll be for a title. Kenshiro, Woodley shows you what you can lose by hanging out with Snoop Dogg and staying around lounges. It's funny. I don't know what happened to him, man. He just lost his aggressiveness. Like, I don't think he's completely shot, to be honest with you. Like, he looks in physically amazing shape. It's just like he's having a hard time pulling the trigger. I think he's kind of one of these guys that might need a sports psychiatrist or a psychologist, Cole. That could probably help him out a lot. I don't know if he uses one already, but he could probably use it. Chris Walker, y'all really going to do that to Woodley? I mean, at this point, Woodley's a gatekeeper, man. That's how the UFC is going to use him. They'd be smart to use him like that. He's on his way out. Why would you give him a guy that he can beat? At this point, you probably want him to fight Khamzat so Khamzat can get a win. Because right now, okay, Khamzat is really good. We all know that. We're talking about him in a second here. He's really good, but he hasn't really beat a ranked guy. If he beats Woodley, I mean, at that point, you could probably give him a title shot, to be honest with you. Kenshiro says Maya he shipped him a big box of steroids for his retirement fight against Khamzat. Yeah, he'll need it. I mean, I don't know if that fight's going to happen. I just don't see Maya's team being interested in it, but we'll see. Kenshiro says, he's talking about the Price fight. He said he liked the draw there. Come on. No one picks a draw. Kevin Scott, Colby's recent wins are all better on paper than they were in reality. Stun Gun, Maya, RDA, Lawler, Woodley, all well past their primes by the time Colby got them. I'm not saying you're wrong, Kevin, because I actually agree with you there. But the thing is, like, at some point, someone has to fight someone. It's unfortunate this fight didn't happen 2 years ago, but, at some point, Father Time's going to hit us all. So it's easy to look back at guys' careers. And, like, you could do the same thing with guys like legends, like Chuck Liddell and Shogun and guys like that. You look back at their careers, you're like, oh, this guy wasn't that good. But at the time they beat them, I mean, it's different, right? So I know what you're saying, Kevin, but
I don't think really any of them were. Like, Maya just fought for the belt and was on a big winning streak. Like, he had what? Masvidal.
It's a little easier to look back at it afterwards, Like,
and
this fight, it was
RDA. By the time Covington fought RDA was undefeated at welterweight. Like, coming off a win over Robbie Lawler. Like, I agree Woodley and Lawler were obviously past their prime, but I think Maya and RDA were still competitive, still top 5 guys.
Yeah, and he says he fought one guy in win streak and has jaw broken. I don't think you're a Colby fan, eh, Kevin? By the way, and I know, like, people don't like Colby, that's fine. But that Trump thing was pretty cool, Cole. The thing you sent me.
Yeah.
That's super cool, man. Honestly, like, who gets a call from the president? And Donald Trump was, like, blushing over the phone. You could tell him and Colby, they got a man crush on each other. It was pretty cool, man. Honestly, they do, Cole. They're like, I'm a fan of you, and you're a fan of me. It was so funny to watch. I've never seen Colby that happy. It was cool. I'm not even a political guy by any means, but I thought it was cool. Daniel Edwards, hey, what's up, Daniel? Bet Woodley hedged the fight not to go distance, as I knew he'd probably lose. That was smart. I thought I was going to go to decision, like it was, but broken rib. And Colby dominated that fight. Let's move on to the next fight. Khamzat against Gerald. 17-second knockout. Just walked it over octagon, walked right across, and knocked him out. Now, Gerald, his hands was like this. He had a wide open spot. Anyone that would have seen that would have knocked him out. It was really bad striking defense. Having said that, it was a perfect punch, and the fact he knocked him out cold was insane. Like, referee Mark Smith jumped in there right away, cold. Like, it wasn't even one of those fights where the guy gets dropped and the other guy has to, like, rain down strikes to get a TKO. This was a clean one-punch knockout. You don't see it that often. Super impressive. I mean, we've talked about this guy a lot the last few months, and I think everyone knows that me and Cole both are really high on this guy, but we want to see him fight someone decent. Gerald Mearshardt's a guy I respect a lot. The fact he knocked him out in 17 seconds shows he's the real deal, man. Now, what do you do with him next? Obviously, the Maya fight is what everyone's talking about, but Dana White said now they're considering another fight in the meantime. They might give him another fight coming up soon. I saw Marcus Perez called him out. I don't think he'll take that fight call. He could because it's probably an easy paycheck. He's probably going to get a rank guy, I think, next. I don't know if it's going to be at 185 or 170. But I will predict, I mean, I've already predicted it. This guy will be a champion one day. I just don't know what weight class it's going to be in, but clearly he's an amazing fighter and an amazing talent. It's just so nuts, Cole, because 3 months ago, he was on no one's radar. He was on no one's radar. I really hadn't even heard of him until the fight week that week, and I looked at his tape, and I was like, holy crap, this guy's insane. Like, there's one where he's choking the guy with the rear naked choke. Remember, Cole? He spits the mouth guard out. It was so nuts. And I said it to you. I'm like, Cole, this guy's nuts. Like, who is this guy? And then all of a sudden, he's the biggest star in the sport. So I'm super high on this guy. I really like him. Cole, give me your thoughts on this matchup, man, because I know as soon as the knockout happened, you messaged me right away, and you're like, holy shit.
I don't care to see Maya fight at all. Even from the beginning, I didn't want to see it. Like, Maya's got 1-2 fights left. Why is he fighting this guy? Like, he should be, like, he's made it clear he wants Diego Sanchez. Diego Sanchez wants him. Even if Diego Sanchez loses on Saturday against Jake Matthews, I still would rather see Maya versus Diego Sanchez. Like, because it's such an interesting fight. Like, Sanchez isn't a guy that gets submitted. Like, Michael Chiesa couldn't submit him. Let's see if Damian Maya can. Like, I don't want to see, because if Gilbert Burns knocked out
Mhm.
Chimaev in the first round, knocked out Maya in the first round, chances are Chimaev's going to knock out Maya in the first round.
Oh,
Like,
I agree completely. Yeah, I mean, you go back to that fight with Gilbert Cole, and the way he got knocked out was so brutal. What are you gonna say?
well, I don't know. I might be in a minority of this, but if Chimaev goes to welterweight, I would like to see him versus 10th ranked Vicente Luque.
Be a good fight. I feel like Luque probably should get someone ranked in the top 10 himself. I think he deserves it, but I think he would be the guy to take that fight. Now, the other guy I'm thinking about at 170, and Kenshiro says him right here, Neil Magny. That's the guy I'm thinking about because Magny fights everyone. And Magny, Cole, I think he has second most wins, right, in welterweight history.
Yeah.
Perfect test. And he's a great fighter, too, coming off a nice win. That'd be a super legitimate win, too. It's kind of nuts seeing this guy bounce back and forth. Like, I know Dana White says it's fun. I don't know about that, Cole. Like, I'd like to see him kind of pick a weight class. If he can make 170, why not go there and be a little bit bigger? But even at middleweight, he's big. Like I said, going into this fight, you look at the stats, he matched up size-wise with Gerald really well, like as far as reach and height goes. So he's a big dude, man. I'm super pumped with this guy, though. Like, he's great. But again, I'd like to see him fight someone a little bit better than Gerald. I mean, Gerald's good, but he's not a top 15 guy. He's just outside the top 15. The other guy is Kevin Holland. I think Holland would be a great fight, too, coming off a win on this card. Kevin Scott says, you are correct. I'm not a Colby fan. I think everything about him is extremely boring. That's totally fair. And I think you're with a lot of people on that one. And now he's calling out LeBron James, which is just nuts. LeBron James talking about Colby Covington. Can you believe that, Cole? Crazy, eh? All right. Let's get through the rest of this card quick. Johnny Walker knocks out Ryan Spann first round. Crazy fight, Cole. He needed this win. Now Johnny's talking about possibly Anthony Smith in his next fight. What do you think about his performance in this fight? It was a pretty wild fight for as long as it lasted.
Yeah, it was a crazy fight. I don't really know why Ryan Spann was shooting on Johnny Walker. If you watch Ryan Spann's first Contender Series fights, that's exactly how he lost. He just never gave up on the takedown. He just got elbowed out. Literally, it's an identical. So it's like he never even learned for that one. And he dropped Walker twice on the feet. So you're already knowing you're the more powerful striker. Your strikes are hurting him more than they're hurting you. So why not keep it standing? And he probably would have knocked him out. Like, I don't know why he was so persistent on just getting a takedown.
Yeah. I picked him. Bad game plan by him, I think. But he did drop Johnny in the first, like, in the opening minutes. But again, Cole, you're right. He went for that takedown. And I think it was the Carl Roberson fight, if I'm not mistaken, in Tough, or in Contender Series. Was it Roberson? Is that who it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just elbowed against the cage a couple years ago. Yeah, I remember that. I like Ryan Spann, but clearly, man, he's got some holes in his game. Good for Johnny, though. I like the guy. Next up, Mackenzie Dern defeats Brandon Marcos, submission in the first round. And Marcos was tough, man. I thought she was actually going to get out of that for a second, but yeah, eventually Dern did what she does. She gets the submission call. I'm super high on her. I love her, man. I think she's great. She's a superstar in the making, I believe. Like Dana said, ever since she had her kid and came back, she's been even better. The Rebus fight notwithstanding, that was kind of, in looking back, kind of a tough matchup. Rebus is really good. Since then, back-to-back wins here over Marcos and Cyphers. Cyphers, I mean, beating her isn't much, but Marcos is extremely durable and tough. Getting finished like that, that's impressive. So I like Mackenzie a lot. I got a question from Kevin about Mackenzie Dern. Bloody Elbow tweeted the question, who wins between Ronda and Dern? I know Dern's BJJ is insane. Isn't she too small? I mean, yeah, you can't even really think about it too much because, first off, Ronda's retired. Second off, she's a bantamweight. Dern's a strawweight. But pure jiu-jitsu, interesting. I think Dern is one of the best we've ever seen, Cole. Like, she's incredible. What's your thoughts on Mackenzie Dern, man? I believe she could be in title contention within the next year or so.
I just don't get Random Marcus. Why did you follow Mackenzie Dern down to the ground? Like, just stand up. You're not winning a jiu-jitsu match with Mackenzie Dern. It was just stupid game plan or stupid IQ from Random Marcos. But it's obviously a good win for Mackenzie Dern. The UFC's high on her. She's going to get a top 8, top 10 person next, probably.
Yep. I think so too, Cole. Let me just pull the rankings up quickly. Mackenzie Dern, let's take a look at her. She's ranked I think she was 15. Rankings will change a bit. She's 15, so I mean, looking above her, Angela Hill's number 13. That'd be a good fight. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight coming off a loss. The other one, Tisha Torres, number 11. That'd be a good fight too, coming off a win over Brianna Van Buren. That'd be a good fight. Marcus says, would Ali book? Hey, Marcus, how's it going? He says, would Ali book Khamzat versus Luque? I think I like Khamzat versus Perry. Pre-fight promo would be crazy. That'd be a good fight too. I'd want to see this guy fight anyway, man. I mean, it's fun to watch this guy fight. Kenshiro, no one wants to fight Jeff Neal. Will Jeff take the Khamzat fight to get more traction? He won't. And I think he's still recovering from his illness. Yeah. I feel bad for Jeff Neal, dude. He had that win over Mike Perry last December. Cole hasn't fought since then. It's crazy. Like at that point, he had so much momentum. The poor guy. I feel bad for him. Kevin Scott says Duran Carolina next. I think Carolina's lost 4 straight fights, right? Let me take a look. Is she even ranked? No, she's not even in the rankings. Yeah, I don't know, Kevin. I think at this point she's someone who could retire. She had a really bad eye injury, if I'm not mistaken, her last fight. What are you gonna say, Cole?
I didn't even know if Carolina was still in the UFC.
Right now, she's lost 4 straight fights. She might have. It doesn't say she's been released. She might still be on the roster, but I mean, you could do that fight. I have a feeling they'll probably give her they'll probably match her up against someone like Carolina, against someone like Pollyanna Viana or whatever, like from a few weeks ago. Someone like that, like who's not ranked yet, but who could jump in there. That's what I'm thinking. Marcus says, if I was managing the Edwards, I would target Kamzat since he has a hard time getting top contender. Being Kamzat would help the stock go up. I don't know about that, Marcus. First off, Leon's ranked number 3. He's ranked number 3. At this point, though, I agree he does eat the fight. He hasn't fought since last July, Cole. And I know he had the fight with Woodley pulled out. I feel bad for him. It's crazy, right? That fight was supposed to happen in March. Edwards has not fought since then. I know there's some issues with travel restrictions and stuff like that. He needs to fight now. He needs to fight before this year's up. If he doesn't fight this year, it's a huge travesty, in my opinion. They got to get him a fight. How does he not have a fight booked yet? It's crazy to think, because every press conference, they ask Dana White, what's up with Leon Edwards? Oh, we're talking to him right now. He's been saying that for like 3 months, Cole. Get the guy a fight. He needs a fight. Colby, Stephen Thompson, Masvidal, any of those guys make sense. Let's go through the rest of the card quick, Cole. Sorry, I know I'm talking a lot here, but this was a good card, guys. It was, there was a lot to talk about, so we'll get through the rest of it quick. Kevin Holland next up defeats Darren Stewart, split decision. I thought that was the right scorecard. I believe Cole also scored a 29-28. It was a close fight, though. David Dvorak defeats Jordan Espinoza, unanimous decision. I can't remember if he closes a dog or not, but the odds were like a pick'em all week. This guy's really good. He won't be a pick'em in his next fight, Cole. I doubt it. After a 15-fight win streak, I think people will finally start to see how good this guy is. Big upset here. Damon Jackson defeats Mirsad Bektic. The question is not about Damon Jackson, but Mirsad. Does he get caught after this? I'm pretty sure he will, right? 3 straight losses, Cole? That's it?
I don't know what happened to this guy. Like, people were talking as the next champion, and man.
It's crazy, dude. Like, he just started losing. He got that Darren Elkins fight destroyed his career. Ever since then, he's just been nothing. So, I don't know. 3 straight losses. He might get another fight because there was obviously the short notice factor here. That's the thing. When short notice, it's not just for the guy stepping in. It's also for the guy who's fighting him because he has to prep for a different opponent. It was a different opponent than his last fight, but he got submitted, Cole, and that's not good. Next up, Myra Brino Silva defeats Mara Borello, who once again, 2 straight fights, jumps into her opponent's guard and gets submitted with an armbar, like her last fight, Cole, against Courtney Casey. Next up, Jessica Rose Clark, Sarah Alper, ends in controversy in the 3rd round. The referee, Chris Taglioni, this ref he's really bad. To be fair with this one, it was hard to see if it was illegal or illegal, Cole. I get that, but the fact the fight restarted is so bizarre to me. Either way, Rose Clark gets the win. After Cole, she goes on Twitter and said she has $17 in her bank account. Now, that's not good, but at the same time, people are saying, why aren't you better with your money and stuff like that? It's tough, man. You got to realize as a fighter, like, it's not just you get your purse, but you have to pay your manager. You got to pay taxes. And she's an Australian citizen, right? She probably pays even more taxes.
Yeah.
So it's brutal. I don't think she makes that much anyways. So you got to have a little bit of compassion for someone like her who's out there putting on good fights. And I didn't think she was a bonus, Cole, but obviously it would have been good for her. I know you want to talk about this fight, Cole. Derek Minner taps out your boy TJ Laramie in the 1st round. What kind of bad fight IQ is this, Cole? What the hell is going on here with TJ Laramie? You do one thing your opponent's good at. You dive into his guillotine. What the heck?
I don't know what Laramie's coach was thinking. The entire game plan if I was his coach was survive the 1st round, do not wrestle with this guy. In the 1st round at least. You can wrestle with it. Like, he almost got Grant Dawson with the guillotine in the 1st round. Like, that was tight against Grant Dawson. Why out of this fight is the first thing Laramie does is shoot? Like, and then it got stubbed and he kept on shooting. It's like, why? Like, his whole game plan in this fight should have just been, let's survive. Even if we lose the 1st round, this guy Gas, we can probably finish him in the 2nd or 3rd. I don't know. He just messed up so many people's parlay, so probably.
And by the way, what's with this guy Derek Minner? Why is he spelling his name Darrick? Who spells Derek that way? Come on, man. Come on, make it hard for us journalists. But seriously, if I was a UFC fighter, I think I'd fight like Derek Minner. I think I'd go in there for 5 minutes, Cole. And if you don't get the finish, you just get finished in the 2nd round. You lay down and get choked out, or you get TKO'd. That's how I'd want to fight too, because you're not paid by the minute. This guy is insane in the 1st round. You can say what you want about his 2nd and 3rd rounds, but his 1st round, he's dangerous as heck, Cole. Next up, another guy we both picked as a dog here, Randy Costa with the brutal head kick knockout of Jordan Newsom. Great finish. And then finally, Cole, Andre Ewell defeats Irwin Vera, and Tyson Nam defeats Jerome Rivera by knockout. Tyson Nam, gotta get this guy some respect, Cole. Come on, man. Don't pick against him anymore. He's definitely good at age 36. Any thoughts on those last couple of fights before we get into the preview for the next card?
Man, Randy Costa looked good. I did not expect that to end that early. But that
we told you.
Yeah, I said knockout. I thought it was going to be in the second round, though. But, man, what a head kick that was.
It was great. He's underrated, man. He's a finisher. All righty. That's it. That's it for the recap. Let's go to the preview now for UFC 253. We got 11 fights. Let's get right into it. Now, actually, it's actually 12 fights no, it is 11 fights, excuse me. All right, we'll start with the first fight of the night. Kadis Ibragimov against Danilo Marquez. Right now, Ibragimov minus 165, Marquez plus 145. Who's your pick?
Can I fade both of them? I don't think either of them are good. Marquez is making his UFC debut after not fighting. When do you see the UFC sign a guy to make his UFC debut after not fighting for almost 3 years? It's been over 2.5 years because his last fight was in February of 2018. And the thing is, the guy is a middleweight moving up because Ibrahimov is he's been fighting at 205, so I think he's gonna be the bigger guy. I'm surprised on the UFC. Maybe the UFC sees something in him. I think this is a setup fight for Ibrahimov to get his first UFC win. I think they like this guy for whatever reason, and they just brought in this guy for Ibrahimov to win. I expect Ibrahimov to win. Does he finish the fight? I don't know, but I like Ibrahimov here, but no way you bet this fight at all.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I wish you could fade both guys. They both have a lot of holes in their game. Okay, so let's start with Kadis. He's only 25, so that's one thing that's going for him here. He's pretty young. He does have 3 fights in the UFC now. He has lost all 3 fights. The first fight against Dan Jung, he was doing okay and then gets caught with a choke in the third round. It happens. Second fight against Ed Herman, he got a decision in that fight. It was a great fight, by the way. I love that fight. Looking back now, Ed Herman's a good fighter, so it's not a terrible loss. But the last fight against Delizi, a guy who hadn't fought in a while and was making his debut, gets KO'd brutally in the first round. Brutal knockout. And he's coming back 2 months later. That kind of worries me, Cole. So 3 straight losses, hasn't won in the UFC yet. That stuff bothers me. Here's the thing. Marquez is arguably even worse. I watched tape on this guy. I'm not impressed at all. First off, he's 34 years old, so he's an older guy. And he hasn't fought in 2 years. And he's making his debut here on super short notice against a guy who already has fights in the UFC. I did watch the tape on this guy, and I wasn't impressed, man. The fight against this Tellez guy in Thunder fight, this Brazilian promotion, he got brutally knocked out. Looked really stiff on the feet. And even in his wins, he didn't look that great either. Like, the guys he's fighting were terrible. That's, I think, why he won. Like, I was showing Cole this one guy last name. His name's Mark Polomeno. Look at this guy. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull this up here. I'm going to try pulling this up on the screen here. All right. Share screen. Let's see if I can get this. Let's see if this works. Does this work? Is that working? Yeah. Check out this guy, Cole. 0-21. And they call him Bad Boy. He's 0-21. Like, look at this guy. He's all first round finishes against him, man. He's not good. So that was his best win. So to me, this guy, I don't know. There's just a lot that I don't like about him. So the thing is, Ibragimov's the guy that I just don't really like either. Got to pick someone. I'm going to pick Ibragimov just because he has experience in the UFC. He's not great, though. Here's a good question here from Claudio. Adam and Cole, you guys actually profit gambling in UFC. I feel like it's difficult to turn a profit. It is, man. It's hard to turn a profit in any sports betting.
Yep.
I've been doing this for 10 years almost. So, I mean, I have a somewhat of a system, I guess. You got to really pick your spots, man. You got to pick fights that are either underdogs or close to pick'ems. I don't recommend generally betting on juice because that's where you get screwed up. When a big favorite loses, you can hurt your bankroll. So, yes, I mean, it's not like it's my full-time job. That's why I'm a writer. That's what I'm good at, you know. But this is definitely something that I like to do on the side. It's fun. I've been doing it for a long time. All right, next up, Cole, we got Jeff Hughes against Juan Espino, your boy, making his return to the octagon. Right now, we got Espino minus 280, Hughes plus 240. Who's your pick?
I hate these odds for these fights. I don't know why they're so lopsided. We haven't seen Juan Espino since November of 2018, so almost 2 years. I like Juan Espino in this fight. This is more of a fade on Jeff Hughes. I don't think Jeff Hughes is that good. And Juan Espino, if he's anything like he was on top, I think he should be able to finish Jeff Hughes. On top, he was really good. He dropped Maurice Green and then submitted him in the first round. Submitted Justin Frazier, beat Ben Sassoli. Like, he looked good. and normally on tough, you don't beat that good of guys, but Ben Sicilian and Maurice Green aren't bad aren't like Maurice Green was a top 15 guy last year before he lost to Pavlovich. So I think Juan Espino can hurt Jeff Hughes, bring him down to the ground, choke him out, but there's no way I can lay that kind of money minus 280 on a guy that hasn't fought in nearly 2 years.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's tough to bet on here because of the layoff, but I think Espino wins. I'm not impressed with Jeff Hughes. He hasn't looked good in the UFC at all. Espino, I mean, he does have the layoff, but Cole, and he's 39, but Cole, honestly, he looked really good before that. So I'm hoping he's still the same guy. We'll see, though. It's a risky fight to bet on. But I think probably does get the fight to the ground finish as Jeff Hughes. That's kind of how I'm thinking. It's a heavyweight fight. I don't see it going the full 3 rounds. Claudio was asking, can you give us a best bet? I usually give out bets during the show. I'll say guys that I think have good value. Like last week, I was like, go on Dvorak. He's a guy with a lot of value. So kind of just pay attention during the card here. I didn't really think about one specific guy. And usually I like to go with at least 2 bets because if the first one loses, at least I like to have something that could, salvage my night. Although when you lose them both, that's not good. It happens, though. All right, next up, we have a light heavyweight bout. William Knight against Alexa Kimura. Kimura minus 170, Knight plus 150. Who's your pick?
This fight, honestly, might have been one of the hardest for me to call. I just don't know where either guy is really at. Like, Alexa Kimura obviously already has UFC experience. He beat Justin Ledet. I don't think he looked too impressive in that. But William Knight, he has some holes. Like, Cody Brundage, when he got him down to the ground, had a lot of success. You could have argued a couple more punches, probably could have ground pounded him out. I'm going to go with Alexa Kimura here. I just like his size. He has a 2-inch reach advantage. He fights he's a main training partner, Stipe Miocic, which obviously can only help you. And Knight's obviously turning around quickly, so you have to wonder he's probably in good shape because he just fought, but I don't know. This fight's such a toss-up again. It's not a fight I'd particularly like to bet just because it's a UFC newcomer versus a guy that only has one UFC fight. I like Kimura. I think he can just avoid that power hand of William Knight in the first round, just gas him out and probably get maybe a late finish or probably a decision, similar to what he did Justin Ledet.
I don't know. We'll see. I think you're underselling Knight's gas tank a bit. He has a couple of 3-round finishes. So I think that he got a decent gas tank. There's only losses to Nchukwi. I mean, it's not a bad loss. For me, this is a tough fight to call, too, because I'm pretty high on both guys. Alexa Kimura, he's young, 24. Like you said, trains with Stipe, got a lot of finishes, has that experience. Didn't love the Ledet fight by any means, but, it was his first fight in the UFC. That was earlier this year. So it has been an 8-month layoff, 9-month layoff, but it hasn't been like 2 years like that guy in the first fight. I'm definitely high on him, but I'm high on Knight too, man. I like William Knight a lot. He's obviously a little bit older, age 32, but a late bloomer to MMA. He's only been fighting pro for 2 years now. He's looked great, man, and he's knocking everyone out. The last fight, obviously, he had a lot of adversity, but he came back and won, and that fight was only like 3 weeks ago, so he's fresh. I like William Knight here as a dog, man. I like Knight. Give me him plus 150. I do think he probably wins this fight by knockout. That's how I'm looking at it, but it's going to be an interesting fight. I just think there's value on it at plus 150 because I think it's a pick'em fight. So I'll take the dog at plus 150. Next up, this fight. Okay, this is the fight I'm really looking forward to, Cole, because I was showing the tape on this guy last night. He's nuts. You got Shane Young against Ludovic Klein. And we got really close odds. Shane Young minus 130, Klein plus 110. Give me your pick.
I actually like Ludovic Klein here. Just Shane Young's a guy that he's only lost the UFC's Alexander Volkanovski, but his 2 wins are Osternet and Rolando Dai. I don't think either of them are in the UFC. Hasn't fought since February 2019. He doesn't even really have that many good wins. Like, I guess Rodolfo Marquez is all right, but when he gets a big step up, even on the regional scenes like an Adrian Rodriguez, Damian Brown, Guan Wong, he loses. His big step up in the UFC was Alexander Volkanovski. He lost. Klein's a guy that has a lot of finishing power. I know he's taking this fight on relative short notice. I actually don't like this matchup for Young. I was picking Shane Young against Nate Landwehr. I just don't think Landwehr's that good, but this is a tough matchup. Klein's a lot of knock power. He has a good gas tank. He goes late into fights. He has fights that have gone into the 4th round. I like Klein. I think he can be the first guy to finish Shane Young here. I think he can knock him out.
This is a great fight. Actually, this is my pick for sleeper fight of the night because I think this is going to be a stand-up war. Both these guys are really good fighters. Shane Young, I've been kind of underrating him in the UFC, but he's looked good. 2 straight wins. And his output's insane. You look at his strike stats. He lands over 6 significant strikes per minute. His last 2 fights, he's landed over 100 strikes against his opponent. So the guy is an absolute beast on the feet. Does have some holes, obviously, with his grappling, as we saw in the Volkanovski fight. But overall, the guy's a really good fighter. Now, here's the thing. I didn't know anything about Klein at all. I'd never heard about this guy until like a couple days ago. Last night I'm looking at tape and type his name up on YouTube. I see a head kick knockout. I'm like, holy shit. Send it to Cole. I'm like, holy shit. And I look back at his record. I'm like, whoa, he had 2 straight head kick knockouts. I watched the other head kick knockout. I'm like, holy shit. Then I look at his record and realize during his recent win streak, he actually has 3 head kick knockouts, Cole. And I watched all 3 of them. The guy has an insane head kick. Go watch tape on this guy. Type him in. Ludovic Klein. Go to YouTube. Watch this guy's last couple fights. His head kick's insane. That last one, Cole, holy smokes. That poor guy. And I like this guy, man. He's got a good gas tank. He's got good defensive wrestling, and he's got crazy knockout power. He has a lot of experience going later in the fights too, Cole, which I like as well. I like Ludovic Klein here, man. I think he knocks out Shane Young too, Cole. So let me take a look at that. What's the odds on that? Ludovic Klein inside distance, only plus 185. Okay. The sports book, okay, obviously the bookies watch the tape too because they can tell this guy's good. That's why the line's so close right now. Give me Ludovic Klein by knockout, Cole. That's one of my dog picks of the night. So I think we both agree on that. Generally, when Cole and me both agree on a dog, we're pretty good with our winning percentage. All right, next up, we got a welterweight bout. Diego Sanchez against Jake Matthews. Biggest line of the night here, Cole. Jake Matthews minus 750. Diego Sanchez plus 525. I want you to talk about this fight in the line because last night you said kind of an interesting note on the line, Cole, and Diego's past couple lines. Now, give me your thoughts on it, Cole.
It's just such a stupid line. Like, Jake Matthews is a bigger favorite than what Michael Chiesa was. If Michael Chiesa and Jake Matthews fought, Michael Chiesa is a, 4-1, 350 favorite? Like, it makes no sense. The thing is, though, but he's minus 750, but there is a line. I like Jake Matthews in this fight. I also have to go back and forth. I'm like, man, is this a weird Craig White, Mickey Gall thing where Diego Sanchez pulls father time and beats Jake Matthews? I think Matthews can get it done. But a line I actually like is fight goes the distance is minus 160 or Matthews by decision is minus 115. Diego Sanchez is a guy that doesn't get finished. Like, Michael Chiesa couldn't finish him. Like, Matt Brown finished him, Alan Quinta. But since moving up, like, he takes a lot of damage. Like, Michel Pereira landed some good shots and kept moving forward. Like, at welterweight, it seems like his chin is a lot better. Jake Matthews is a guy that does not finish guys. You look at his fights: Emil Weber-Mech, decision; Rostam Akrat, decision. He also got a submission over Anside. Li Jingliang, decision. Bojan Velicic, decision. Like, all his fights in the UFC are decision. So I think that's kind of a way if you like this fight. Matthews by decision minus 115 or fight goes distance minus 116, just in case Sanchez pulls off some Hail Mary. But I think that's kind of the way you have to look at betting this fight.
Yeah, you got to pick Matthews, I think, here, but the line's terrible. I would not bet on Jake Matthews at this price. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Diego was able to out-wrestle him. Like, maybe Jake wins the first round and then Diego wins the next 2 just by wrestling this guy, pushing against the fence, making it dirty. Diego's got some wins in his last few fights that surprised me too. But at the same time, I mean, Jake Matthews, obviously, the biggest difference in this fight, Cole, is the age. As you know, Diego Sanchez right now, what is he, 38? 38, and Jake's 25, if I'm not mistaken. 26 now. So Jake's been the guy he was in the UFC 19. He's been kind of being groomed for something like this. It feels like every time he fights a big name opponent, he loses, Cole, which does kind of worry me a little bit, but I still have to pick him here. Just the age, like I said, and the size too. He should be a lot bigger in this fight. So give me Jake Matthews. Does he get the finish? No, that's the question. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe Diego's able to pop it out, Cole. I mean, he's pretty durable, you know. He's never been submitted, I don't believe either, which is why that my fight really makes sense. But yeah, I mean, maybe Jake takes him down, beats him up TKO. I don't see him getting submitted, but I'm looking at, Matthews by decision, minus 115. That's kind of how I'm looking at it, Cole. I think he probably grinds it out, just wins the decision. All right, next up, we got a lightweight bout. Brad Riddell against Alex Da Silva. I'm a little surprised by this matchup, Cole. I thought Riddell deserved a much higher ranked opponent. Right now, we have Riddell minus 330. So Da Silva plus 270. Who's your pick?
I'm going Brad Riddell. I just think Brad Riddell will be able to keep his fight standing on the feet. He's a much better striker than Alex. So Brad Riddell's actually the striking coach of City Kickboxing. So he's the striking coach of like an Adesanya, Volkanovski, Dan Hooker, Kai Kara France. Like he's that good of a striker where he's still in the UFC, he's still young, but he's their striking coach. Like I think Riddell is just going to piece up Da Silva. Will he get a finish? That's the big question. I don't know if he'll be able to knock out Da Silva. Riddell doesn't seem like he hits that hard, like he wobbles guys, but he's just so precise. Like, he just picks them apart, and they have nothing for him. I just think Riddell's going to be able to outpoint Da Silva. Maybe get a late finish, just like all the damage just finally adds up, and he drops him and ground pounds him out. But I think I like Riddell here, and I don't think he's a bad parlay piece if you want to put him with someone else on this card.
I'm with you on that. I like him a lot in this fight. I don't see how Silva wins. Silva just hasn't been impressive. He got tapped out by Yakovlev 2 fights ago. That guy's like, I don't even think he's in the UFC. Last fight against Vargas, that was over a year ago. He didn't win the fight, but not that impressive. You look at his wins, his resume, like his record's 21-2, so it's nice. But you look at the resume, the quality wins is pretty lackluster, in my opinion. Riddell's coming off a really good win over Mustafa, who was a good fighter, and the Malarkey fight was one of the best fights of 2019. I know Malarkey's not like a household name, but that was a pretty tough fight. He also has a knock win over Kenan Song, who's doing pretty good in the UFC. So I like Brad Riddell a lot. I'm with you, Cole. I mean, like I said earlier in the show, you got to be careful about just blindly parlaying juice. But in this case, I really don't see too much of a path to victory for Silva. Give me Brad Riddell. Question is, does he finish or does he get a decision? I'm kind of feeling like he gets a finish in this fight, Cole. Give me Brad Riddell. I think he probably knocks this guy out. Next up, Hakeem Dawodu against Tibera Tuhugov. Another really close fight here according to the odds. Tuhugov minus 115, Dawodu minus 105. Who's your pick?
Man, this fight has gone back and forth with so much because to be honest, I'm not high on either guy. I know everyone considers them prospects. I don't really think either of them are that good. Dawodu hasn't really impressed me much in the UFC. Like, he's on a 4-fight winning streak, but Kyle Bakane at 231, I was there. He didn't look that good. And then he said, oh, it was some shoulder thing. And then Julio Arce, he got a split. Barely beat him out at UFC 244. His only finish win was against Yoshinari Horu, which was kind of a setup fight for him to look good. Like, all of his wins, I honestly don't think – I only think Arce is still in the UFC. Like, he hasn't really beat that much level competition. Tukov, I'm just not high on at all. I just think – I know he got a big win over Kevin Aguilar last time out. The draw against Lerone Murphy. He's someone that kind of gasses out. I think his cardio is kind of suspect. We're in that third round. He fades, and maybe Dawodu can finish Tukov, but I just think Tukov's grappling and striking will be the difference. Win the first 2 rounds. He'll probably lose the third. I see this fight going the distance. Tukov edging out 29-28. But the way Dawodu's fights go, maybe we'll see another split.
I also feel like it goes the distance probably, and the over is minus 215. Maybe you take a look at that, possibly if you're confident in it. I feel like it does go the distance, though I know that both guys can finish opponents, but I think stylistically this is a fight that seems destined to go the full 15. Should be a good fight, though. I think both guys obviously like to stand and strike, and I think that's what we'll see here. Tuhugov, he's coming off a nice win over Aguilar. Overall in the UFC, I mean, he's looked okay. He's 4-1-1. Hasn't fought that much. He had a 4-year layoff since coming back, or 3-year layoff, I should say. Coming back, he's had 1 win and 1 draw, so it's nice to see him at least get back in there. As far as Dawodu goes, obviously had that loss to Henry's debut, which was really shocking. Since then, 4 straight wins. Only 1 finish, though. And a couple of those wins by split decision, which also kind of bothers me. Just the way he fights, he's in these close fights. But I still can't forget the guy he was in WSOF, too, with all those knockouts. So I think there's something inside this guy that we still haven't seen in the UFC yet. I hope we can see it. I don't know if this is the fight where we see it, but I do like Dawodu in this fight, Cole. I think he's just a better striker, and I think the technique will be the difference. I think he's just going to kind of outland Tuhugov and win the decision, but it's a close fight. There's a reason the odds are pick 'em. Next up, we got Caitlin Vieira against Jara Eubanks. Right now, Vieira minus 170, Eubanks plus 150. A bantamweight fight that Eubanks took on short notice. Who's your pick?
I'm going with the underdog is Jara Eubanks. I have been fading Caitlin Vieira well, I guess it was only a 1-fight fade, but everyone was picking her against Irene Aldana. I don't even think she beat Kat Zingano, so I really think she's on a 2-fight lose streak. Everyone was talking about how she's going to be the one to beat Amanda Nunes. I don't think she's that good. Like, if you look at who she's beat, she hasn't beaten, like, she has a split over Kelly Fashels, a decision win over Ashley Evans Smith, a submission win over Sarah McMahon, a split over Kat Zingano, and a lot of people thought Zingano won that fight, then knocked out against Irene Aldana. I love that fight with Irene Aldana because Irene Aldana was a big underdog, took that because everyone was thinking Vieira is his next great thing. She was coming off a big layoff into that Aldana fight. She just never looked good. I know Eubank is someone I like to fade as well, but I just think Vieira's best path to victory is taking someone down and submitting her. I don't think she's going to take down Jara Eubanks. Eubanks has underrated wrestling, and on the feet, I think Eubanks is a better striker. I worry about Eubanks' cardio a bit in that third round, but I also worry about Vieira's cardio because we've seen her kind of gas out. I think Eubanks is going to edge out this fight on decision, just be able to keep the fight standing and piece up Vieira, but I don't know. It's a tough fight to call because I'm not really too high in either of them.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that too. I don't think I bet on this fight. I do favor Vieira, though. She's a lot bigger. I think that's the biggest difference for me. She's 5'8", Eubanks 5'4". Eubanks, a former flyweight. She's decently sized at bantamweight, but Vieira is like a big bantamweight. I was at the last fight with Aldana, and She actually looked okay in the first couple of minutes of that fight. She did get caught with a punch, but she was actually doing okay in that fight. And then her wins are decent. I mean, Zagano and McMahon, those are decent wins. So I know she hasn't fought much lately, and she obviously has holes in her game, but I overall think she's a better fighter. I mean, Eubanks, I still can't go over that loss call to Betch last year. I mean, to me, if Betch can beat her, I think anyone can really. So I favor Vieira here. I think she wins a decision, but it's not a fight really that I'm looking to bet on. We'll take a look at the next fight now. Flyweight bout, Kai Kara France against Brandon Royval. This is a great fight. This is another sleeper fight of the night, in my opinion. Kai Kara France minus 235, Brandon Royval plus 195. To me, those odds are a little surprising. What's your thoughts, Cole?
Yeah, I don't really like the odds. I do like Kai Kara France to win this fight. I just don't. I think this fight's a lot closer with the odds suggest. I think this should be like a minus 160 to a plus 120, something like that. Minus 170, plus 130, like around those lines. I don't think Kai Kara France should be above 2-1. Mm-hmm. Brandon Royval is someone that has really good jiu-jitsu, has a really weird style to fight. Kai Kara France, though, I just think he can stuff the takedowns, keep this fight standing, and just pick apart Brandon Royval. Kai Kara France is a much better striker. It really comes down to can Royval get him down to the ground. So on the feet, I don't think Royval really has anything Kara France hasn't seen. I just think Kara France can be able to outpoint Brandon Royval eventually and get a decision win. I don't really see I think there's a finish. It's going to be Royval tapping out Kara France. I can't see. I know Kara France had a lot of knocks in the regional scenes, but he just hasn't really showed that power in the UFC. Royval has a pretty good chin. I think Kara France can be able to outpoint probably 2-1, win a decision.
Yeah, this is a great fight. Like I said, it could win fight of the night. I'm pretty high on both guys, I got to be honest. Kai Kara France has been a really good fighter, underrated for a while. UFC record 4-1. The one loss to Moreno, super close fights. Overall, I mean, he's won 9 of his last 10 fights, so he's on a hot streak right now. He's good, man. Good striking, good takedown defense. He's just a solid flyweight. He's like a legitimate top 10 guy. I don't think he's a top 5 guy, but he's a top 10 guy for sure. Having said that, Brandon Royval, there's a lot to like about this kid, man. First off, the fight with Tim Elliott, I picked him there as an underdog. That was a nice bet because Tim Elliott is a good fighter, but he has a lot of holes in his submission defense. And as soon as that fight hit the ground, Cole, it was a chess match that Royval eventually won. We saw how good his ground game is, Cole. His last 3 wins, Cole, by submission. He's got a really good ground game. Here's other things to like about Brandon Royval. 5'9" compared to 5'4" for Kai Kara France. 70-inch reach compared to 66-inch for Kara France. So there's a lot of things to like about him in this fight. Not to mention the odds, plus 195. This is a pick'em fight. I'm taking plus 195 on Brandon Royval, Cole. Give me a dog here, man. Give me Brandon Royval. I think he wins this fight, and I think he can get a submission. Maybe not, and wins a decision, but I like him at plus 195. I do think he wins this fight. I think the odds are a little whack, to be honest with you. I like Kara France too, but the odds, Cole, should be a lot closer, like you said. All right, co-main event, Dominick Reyes against Jan Blachowicz for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. Wow, love this fight. Dominick Reyes, minus 275. Jan Blachowicz, plus 235. Who wins the UFC Light Heavyweight title?
Man, I don't get this is such a close fight than the odds. Like, Jan Blachowicz gets no respect. Like, if you look, ever since he lost to Patrick Cummins, Devin Clark, underdog, 1. Jared Cannonier, underdog, 1. Jimmy Manuel, underdog, 1. Nikita Krylov, underdog, 1. Thiago Santos is a slight underdog, he lost. Luke Rockhold, underdog, 1. Jacare Souza is the only time he's been favored in his past, I think, 8-9 fight. And then Corey Anderson was an underdog. This guy wins as an underdog. I don't know why people still aren't putting respect on him. Dominick Reyes is a good fighter. I didn't think he beat John Jones. I'm probably the minority with that. I thought he lost 3-4-5. And he's someone I'm still not that too high on. I don't think he beat Volkan Oezdemir. I thought Volkan Oezdemir beat him. If you look at his record, Chris Weidman had no business being in that fight. Jared Cannonier is also a good win. Ovince St. Preux, it says decision. I think he knocked him out. This is such a close fight, but I'm actually going with the underdog, Jan Blachowicz. I think Reyes isn't. I think he's overlooking Jan too much. I think he's putting no respect on him. He just already thinks himself as the champion. I don't really think he thinks Jan is that dangerous. I think Reyes is going to try to close distance, come in, and Jan just going to meet him with that legendary Polish power of the left hook and drop Dominick Reyes and knock him out. I think he finishes Reyes in the 3rd or 4th round.
Did you interview him or no? You interviewed him?
Jan, yeah.
Yeah. The Polish power, right? You know what, Cole? I'm with you in that the odds seem a little long to me. Jan needs more respect because, like Cole said, he's always an underdog and he's been pulling it off. Now, I can see why he's the dog. He's obviously a lot older here. He's 37 years old compared to Reyes, who's only 30. Reyes also is a little bit taller too, which should help a bit. The reach is very similar. Reyes, to most people, is probably undefeated. The last fight of Jon Jones, I thought he won that fight. I've been super impressed with him in the UFC. He's been pretty much finishing everyone. Obviously, the Volkan fight was very competitive. Arguably lost that fight, but the Jones fight, I thought he won. And to beat Jon Jones is super impressive, in my opinion. And there's no reason for me to fade him. I think this guy is really good. I love watching him fight. Great striking, and he has a ground game too that we don't see. But Jan, the improvements this guy's made has been incredible, and it's been nice because I picked him as a dog a couple times, like against Luke Rockhold, knocked him out. He was a big underdog in that fight, Cole. So it's nice to get plus money on him, and I think he'll be a popular underdog bet this weekend, and he absolutely can win this fight because Jan is a beast, and Jan is good everywhere. Jan has a good striking. Jan has good grappling. He might be the better grappler. He probably is, actually, Cole. So if the fight goes to the ground, I think I'd probably favor Jan, but I think it stays on the feet, and I just like Reyes' volume and his power a little bit more. So give me Reyes. I think he wins the decision, Cole. I think it's going to go to full 5. It's going to be a great fight, but I don't like the odds. I don't like the minus 275. So to me, it's probably dog or pass when it comes to the odds. And I'm just looking at some comments here. I will get the other comments I missed, guys. Give me a minute. But Marcus says he likes dog money on Jan. And D44H99 is a hilarious picture. I agree with Cole. Reyes has an ego. Underestimate Jan. He does have an ego, but I think if you beat Jon Jones, you'd probably have an ego, although I guess on paper he didn't. Either way, Cole, I can't wait for this fight. Great fight. All right, main event, Cole. Israel Adesanya against Paulo Costa, UFC middleweight championship on the line. Israel Adesanya minus 170, Paulo Costa plus 150. Who's your pick?
Man, I actually think I'm in the minority. I don't think this is going to be that close of a fight. I think Israel Adesanya just picks apart Paulo Costa for just the entire fight. I honestly think Adesanya's going to knock out Paulo Costa. That's even more of a take that a lot of people don't think. I think Costa probably has one round to knock out Adesanya, but Adesanya's footwork is so good. I think Costa's going to throw those big bombs. Adesanya's not going to be there. Hits him with a left or a right, and then just really picks apart Paulo Costa. I also question Paulo Costa's gas tank. He looked a bit tired against Yoel Herrera in 3 rounds. Can he go 5? That's a big question. I think he's going to go for the knockout, probably gas himself out, and Adesanya's going to eventually knock him out in the 4th or 5th round.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight a lot. I think you're selling Costa a little short. The guy's undefeated, and he has looked incredible in the UFC. I mean, look at his wins. The Romero fight was really impressive, the way he just beat Romero. I know Romero's an older guy, but he looked good in that fight. And then the Uriah Hall win, Johnny Hendricks, Bambuse, McClellan. I mean, those guys aren't great, but the way he's finishing everyone's impressive. The guy obviously is a super strong dude. He's got a good gas tank for a guy with that much muscle on his body. It's pretty incredible. And to be honest with you, I found the guy really entertaining too. So I like Paulo Costa, man. I think he's good, but I don't think you could pick against Israel Adesanya. You can't. How can you pick against Izzy? Izzy is the man. Izzy is incredible. 19-0, and not only that, he's pretty much dominated everyone he's fought, except for, I guess, Romero. I mean, that fight was pretty close. And, well, I guess for Vettori, too, was close. But mostly, Cole, I mean, he's been pretty dominant in his fights. Guy's incredible, man. And he's a master of range. He's a master of distance. Here's the other thing. He's got a big reach advantage in this fight. 80-inch reach for Israel Adesanya. He's also 6'4". Paulo Costa 6'1", but only 72-inch reach. 8-inch reach advantage. That will come into play. Paulo Costa can win this fight. I think he could knock out Izzy. Izzy has been KO'd in glory, so we have seen him get KO'd. But to me, Paulo Costa probably doesn't win the first round. He wins this fight, Cole. My pick's Israel Adesanya. I think he wins the decision. I think he grinds this fight out and outpoints Costa. Looking at the odds, Cole, I mean, I do like him in this fight, but at the same time, about this prop, Cole, over 2.5 rounds minus 130. I'd almost rather bet on that.
I actually was going to mention that. I don't think this fight ends early.
How is it 2.5? It should be set at 3 or 4.5. I'm surprised it's set at 2.5. So to me, there's value on that. I mean, there could be an early finish. I could be wrong, but I think Izzy wins the decision here, guys. And even if he doesn't, I don't think Costa puts him on it. It could be like a tough fight. Costa could land something early, and then it could go a few rounds. But I think 2.5 rounds is not bad. Also, Izzy by decision is plus 334. That's another one to look at. We'll see. I don't think Costa's 5, right? So it's interesting. We'll see. D44H99, Costa's Church on Instagram are hilarious. He's the man. He's hilarious on Instagram. We don't really see undefeated guys fight each other for belts very often, so it's a pretty rare matchup in that case. I'm looking forward to it. Overall, Cole, I mean, it's a pretty good card. Like I said, not the best pay-per-view of the year. There's some better ones, but it's pretty solid. There's just a few other things I want to talk with you, Cole, a few pieces of news. We only got like 5 minutes left. give me your thoughts on Michael Chandler's time in the UFC. I wasn't able to get to it last week. Who do you think he fights in his debut? Right now, he's set for a backup spot, which is really bizarre to me. I don't understand that at all. I think he should just be booked for a fight. Who do you think he's going to fight?
You can really put him against anyone. It makes sense. Like, hopefully they do Ferguson Poirier, so hopefully that gets rid of them.
Yep.
I don't really see this name being called that much, but I wouldn't mind seeing him versus Charles Oliveira.
I was thinking that too. It'd be such a good fight, right?
I like the two names I have in mind is Charles Oliveira, Paul Felder. Let's see where Chandler is in the UFC.
I just feel like it's a little disrespectful. A guy from Bellator comes in and gets a number one contender spot over a guy like Poirier or Ferguson. It does bother me. And I'm a huge Michael Chandler fan. I love the guy. I've always been a fan of him, but it does kind of bother me. And for those guys, they must be really ticked off. I'm almost feeling like, because he got signed to an offer sheet from Bellator, and Bellator chose not to match it. I almost feel like they threw poison pills into that contract like this. Like Bellator had to match the fact he had to be a backup for a title fight. Like there's stuff in contracts that are like that.
Or pay-per-view money where Bellator has nothing.
Exactly. So there's stuff like that for sure maybe came into play as well. We're not really aware about, because how often? Okay, first off, how rare is it the guy gets signed and then they put him on the card right away? And how often they do it and say, hey, he's the backup. It's just so bizarre. They never did that before. So very strange, but I love the guy, and I think any of those fights make sense. A guy like Beneil Darius should be a good fight. Dan Hooker's a good fight. The other guy I want to talk about quickly, Cole, Conor McGregor. Dana White says he's got a plan for him. You think it's Nate Diaz? You think it's Jorge Masvidal? You think it's someone else? What do you think's going on with Conor? Do you think he'll fight again?
I think the plan is the winner of Khabib Gaethje. They want this guy in a title fight.
Yeah.
I don't think, they're only talking about it now, a month before the lightweight title fight.
Yeah.
I think that Dana White, McGregor can get any win over anyone, and his next fight can be for the belt if he asks for it. And I think, especially if either of those matchups, Gaethje McGregor is a massive fight, because Gaethje's not going to shoot on McGregor. Yeah. That's just going to be a striking matchup, which is really interesting. Maybe we see McGregor get knocked out. Maybe we see McGregor knock out Gaethje. If he fights Khabib again, Khabib Conor 2 is probably the biggest fight they can do in this sport. So I think that's kind of what Dana White's hinting at.
And Conor is coming off the win over Cerrone, so he is coming off a win. They could justify it like that. Quickly, Cole, we don't have much time left. We have less than 2 minutes here. John Dodson got released by the UFC, and Frank Mir signed with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Give me your thoughts on both those.
I don't get either of them. John Dodson said he wanted to go down to flyweight. He's a big name. Why not let him go down to flyweight? If he lost one at flyweight, sure, then he could cut him. But I guess he's probably making too much money for what he's bringing in, and the UFC has so many contenders for these guys. But Frank Mir, Bare Knuckle, I don't actually have any words for it.
I laughed when I saw the headline. I was like, really? Good for them. They're signing these big names, but come on. I saw someone say Bare Knuckle's turning to the new Bellator. Kind of is. When Bellator a couple years ago, they're a little different now about it, but a few years ago, remember, Cole, they signed every guy the UFC cut.
Any guy, you signed with Bellator a couple years ago, you had to be over 40 and be a 10-fight UFC veteran.
Stephen Bonner, Tito Ortiz, Chael Sonnen, Frank Mir, Roy Nelson, all these guys, Chia Kongo. I mean, there's so many of them, but I'm with you on that. John Dodson, let's be honest, Cole, he's kind of a boring fighter, but he still was a top 15 guy. So you're letting go of a top 15 guy. I think he probably does go to Bellator. I think that makes sense. They do a lot of events in where's he training? Mexico. New Mexico is pretty close to California. They'll probably start doing them next year. I don't know if he fights during the pandemic. We'll see. All right, that's it as far as those go. I got really quick, Cole. You have maybe 10 seconds on each fight. John Villante, Jay Collier, and Alex Bang against Jared Gooden. Give your 2 thoughts on these.
I am judging Collier, Villante. I'm going to pick whoever has the less belly on that one. Whoever shows in better shape out of those two. And Jared Gooden.
And the other fight?
Alan Jouban. It's a pretty good fight. I don't know who I'm picking yet. That's a really close one.
And there we go. Sorry, guys. It's two guys that are almost NBA fans. You still there, Cole?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Guys, that's it for today's podcast. All right, that's it for today's podcast. Plug yourself, Cole.
Yeah, the show's already out, so it's Jan Blachowicz, Kai Kara France. I got Sajara Eubanks before she went to fight Anna. Might have been the only person to talk to her, because that was quick turnaround, and she had to get into our flight. And then Brandon Royval, stories with all them, fighter picks for the title fights. And I also talked to Juan Espino, which should be up today as well.
Sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties right in the last seconds of the podcast, but you guys can follow me on Twitter at MMAOB available at MMAOsbreaker.com, BJPen.com, MMARings.net. Definitely subscribe to the podcast. And really quick, I see Marcus is asking, do you know why Jan and Sterling hasn't been signed? I have no idea, man. They'll probably get that fight, hopefully, before the end of the year. Guys, really appreciate everyone tuning in and watching the show. Cole, once again, thanks for joining me. Should be a good card this week. I'll be back on Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk about the next card. Bye, guys.